We are a Walk for Food. Our project strategy will be focusing on reducing food waste in Hatfield.
I'm Josephine. Hatfield, more like Hatfood.
I'm Shanae. It's time for the Hatfield Chow Down.
I'm Christine. What the fork?
I'm Simeon. Let us remain calm. Change is on the way.
We have split the presentation into 3 questions. Why? We need to understand the current state in order to suggest successful changes. Then what? Here we look at what your proposal for change is. And then finally, the how. We conclude by explaining how our strategies will be implemented. To briefly explain the food system, it can be categorized into 5 stages: production, processing, distribution, consumption, and waste management.
Just to briefly give an overview of food waste, 30 to 40% of the total food supply become food waste. Food waste falls under the broader category of biowaste. Biowaste is any organic material that can decompose through biological processes, whereas food waste is specifically leftover food, spoiled or damaged produce. Food waste can occur at any point during the food cycle. Biowaste and food waste can easily be converted into compost. However, in our current system, it usually ends up in landfill. We have identified 3 core problems present in the current state that we will be working towards solving. 1. Inequitable land use. 2. Lack of local food culture and rituals. 3. Lack of circular food disposal strategies and infrastructure. During our survey in Hatfield, we identified many physical problems throughout the food system and how it reduces the overall quality of the city, from the pedestrian experience to social cohesion, health and safety. There is a lack of public space in which the public can set up any kind of food culture. The city is dominated by the car, to the harm of the local population. There is an absolute lack of any infrastructure that can facilitate any other kind of food disposal other than just throwing it away.
We observed 2 kinds of food cultures within Hatfield. Most food consumption points have a fast food culture. This is where food moves through the system very quickly, with maximum efficiency and minimum cost. This culture creates a lot of waste and offers no opportunities for community creation. Slow food culture, however, was only observed at a single Ethiopian restaurant in Sunnyside, adjacent to Hatfield. Here, traditional food culture and the rituals of eating are preserved. It is a communal gathering place for the local Ethiopian community. Due to the careful way they eat, leftover food is kept clean and is given to the staff or homeless community at the end of the day.
Urban typology of Hatfield. First, we looked at the building stock. Almost 30% of Hatfield is built up, and 30% of the land is taken up by vehicular infrastructure. This is land that is very, very poorly servicing the residents, and there is expanding land usage with more and more demand for parking, taking up the ever-increasing area of truly pedestrian space. A large amount of open land is being used for sports fields, but we observe that most of the agricultural land on Hillcrest campus is not being utilized, and that there is a lot of underutilized land. This is land that serves no function for the larger systems of the city. To summarize, almost 55% of Hatfield's land does not serve its residents. It is either underutilized or dedicated to the private vehicle. We plan to take that land back. Problems resulting from a fast food culture, exclusive and compartmentalized land usage, an exploitative food system, and bad food waste management systems present in Hatfield. We now seek to understand what is this current food system that has created these problems.
Summarize the current food system in Hatfield, which we have already covered in the large group presentation, extracts resources from the ecosphere. These resources move quickly through Hatfield's fast food culture. It is then discarded to the landfill once society deems it to have no value. We have to ask the question, how can we transform the current food system into a circular system? that is inclusive of local communities, regenerates the environment, and strengthens existing cultures and allows for the creation of new indigenous knowledge.
A circular food system closes the loop. Food waste is recycled to become a basic resource again. Hatfield's culture is transformed into a slow food culture. 3 core strategies will be implemented to create a circular food system. They are to create an inclusive food system, integrate the food cycle into the local area and culture, and transform from a fast food to a slow food culture.
Of the fast food culture on our ecosystems. A person living on the standard American diet, or as we could call it, the fast food culture, requires 0.013 square kilometers of land to produce enough food to sustain themselves. This can be reduced to 0.004 square kilometers, or 3 times less by adopting a slow food lifestyle, including reducing meat consumption, consuming indigenous crops, and growing locally to reduce loss during transport. But even by reducing the required land per person by that much, we calculated that Hatfield would still need more than 200 square kilometers of fertile productive land in order to produce enough food to feed itself. At waste, we then calculated how much bio-waste Swane produces annually. Of that, 5,000 tons is just food waste. Zooming in further to Hatfield specifically, we calculated that it creates approximately 891 tons of bio-waste and 47.76 tons of food waste annually. This is still 3 dump trucks full of just food. All this currently goes straight to landfill. Bio-waste contributes to almost a third of all solid waste found in landfills. But all this waste is actually a valuable and in-demand resource. Through composting, it can be reused in the food cycle to replenish nutrients in the soil or as feed for animals. It also contains energy, which can be converted to power through biomass energy generation. So why all these numbers? Well, it helps us answer the question, how can we use all this waste to create a local food system within Hatfield? We can convert that 5,000 tons of Swane's food waste into approximately 2,500 tons of compost to create local farms and revitalize land within the city. We calculated that we can create 66 square kilometers of fertilized productive land within Hatfield. The remaining 520,000 tons of biowaste that Swane produces annually can power a biomass energy plant, producing 246 megawatt hours. So currently, Hatfield's total land area is only 7.9 square kilometers. That is far too small for Hatfield to feed itself locally. We would need to create 25 times more land in order to feed Hatfield. Using the compost produced from Swane's food waste and implementing strategies such as vertical farming, aquaponics, and roof farming, we could realistically sustain 66 square kilometers of productive land within Hatfield. But how will these strategies be implemented spatially?
Create Hatfield within nested systems. As part of the urban system, Hatfield is dependent on the millions of square kilometers of agriculture surrounding the urban node. These expanding industrial city systems are damaging the natural environmental systems. We have identified the urban hub of Hatfield as a point with many food sources. However, the linear food system creates many problems. The university's experimental farm on Hillcrest campus offers large potential in terms of crop production and education. However, it is currently a large tract of underutilized land. We will reintroduce indigenous flora and fauna into the urban system, better integrating it with the ecosystem. Local food systems will be fully utilized by making use of available natural, urban, and social resources. By doing this, a local food cycle will be created. Inclusive food systems will drive the creation of a slow food culture in Hatfield.
Survey data onto the map, we can clearly see the segmentation of the food system, with consumption hubs being isolated from one another, while the productive area of Hatfield shows little activity. Our survey shows that the Hatfield CPD is a hub of food consumption, meaning that there is a massive demand for food. Currently, all food is imported from the external sources and waste is exported to landfill, while at the same time, compost needs to be imported to the experimental farm. During the school term, the immediate area around the CPD houses up to 10,000 students. However, when students go home for the 3-month holiday, this population drops below 1,000, creating a ghost town, increasing crime in the area. There are various underutilized spaces between the CPD and the farm. They are in the form of parking spaces, abandoned plots of land, and green open spaces. There is a regular flow of people moving through the CPD from the Gautrain and Rissik train stations to the University of Pretoria in the mornings and afternoons. This creates a large amount of pedestrian traffic when vehicular traffic is busiest, creating a dangerous condition for pedestrians.
Identified a node with lots of activity and flow of people. It is a food consumption hotspot. We have also identified a node with the capacity to produce food for the city, as well as the capacity to absorb the city's food waste in the form of compost. The first phase of our strategy is to create a link between these nodes, allowing the easy exchange of resources, food waste to the farm and produce to the city. The university and the CID will be responsible for initiating the first phase of our strategy and for transforming the experimental farm into an active farm. The food link will be activated through the creation of micro-interventions along the axis. These interventions will take the form of micro-street farms, urban living rooms, and street furniture. A cultural centre will be created in the heart of Hatfield. Hatfield Plaza Shopping Centre has been selected due to its centrality, large amount of food sources, big student population, and a regular flow of people between the trains and the university. This site will be transformed from a relatively empty parking lot into a much-needed town square for Hatfield, a place where the community can gather in a truly public space.
The edges of the new square will be activated by engaging with the existing programs around the site. Additional productive landscapes as well as workshops will be created as a training and proving ground of ground-up urban renewal ideas. The possibility of developing a biomass power plant grows as food and bio-waste increases. The development of a farmers market creates a landmark for Hatfield to be proud of. Through the collaboration of the university, the CID, and the local residents, a ground-up but well-supported intervention can be created as a seed from which future interventions can grow. By keeping the community at the core of the design, encouraging community-building events, a food culture can be created and growth can happen organically with minimal top-down planning.
For the spatial application, we have focused on Hatfield Plaza Shopping Mall, at the heart of the Hatfield CBD. Currently, the pedestrian experience is cars, parking, taxis, and more cars. Most shops and food outlets cower deep within the mall, away from the chaos of the street. The food outlets that do face the street are generally the fast food kind, and hardly a place where people sit and enjoy the city. The same can be said for the rest of the city, with Hatfield Plaza being very similar to the rest of Hatfield, with 55% of its land being lost to cars and being underutilized. The link between the farms and the city will integrate formal public transit, such as electric buses charged by the biomass center, informal transit routes such as bicycle and pedestrian lanes, and lanes of Burnett Street will be donated to public transit. The road can be closed flexibly as the community requires. The shopping center will be opened up to the city. The micro-interventions will engage the community, who can take part in the urban renewal of their streets through quick tactical interventions. Here, local residents will drive the development through community-led tactical urbanism. This will help create a culture of community engagement and ground-up design strategies. Slow food establishments are introduced as residents begin to engage with their local food system. A cultural event space forms the heart of the new square. Here, community is further built up through larger events. A space for regular farmers' markets is also created. Now residents have the ability to trade and compete with their produce, further encouraging people to take up the challenge of winning the biggest pumpkin competition. The public square is activated by its edges. It enables the creation of additional productive landscapes in 4D, on the ground, on vertical walls, on roofs, and even inside buildings. This model can be replicated throughout the city and adapted to various contexts. These spaces will include workshops where the community and experts can share their ideas about urban farming techniques. Eventually, parts of the public space can be roofed over with an accessible green roof, doubling its productive capacity. It also creates a recognizable landmark within the city. By designing the edges and the roof, the ground plan is left free for community events. The landmark Hatfield Square is created as a new cultural and food hub. A strong link between the food consumption hub and the production hub is created. This landmark is a seed from which other grassroots interventions can grow from. By applying these strategies throughout Hatfield, underutilized land can be transformed into productive landscapes, creating at least 4.3 kilometers of new productive land. And through 4D productive landscapes, we can create endless additional land within the city. Primary programs happening on site. The first is the creation of the local food system. This includes productive landscapes, local kitchens, and slow food eateries. The food discards are composted and reused, and the excess is used for the biomass power plant, utilizing 100% of all local food waste. Creating a culture of circular food systems is essential to the success of the project. Workshops and event spaces create areas for learning and knowledge creation. It reinforces a sense of greater community within Hatfield. These programs create 70% more public space within Hatfield Plaza. By removing cars from the space and instead implementing additional bus routes, bike lanes, and pedestrian areas, it improves the value of the public space on the site, thus increasing public infrastructure on Hatfield Plaza. All these programs work together in a circular fashion, so that all resources, including produce, compost, human skill, and knowledge creation, are fully utilized and reinforce each other.
Strategies are also applied at a detailed level. This is just one example of the ways the food and learning systems can be integrated into public infrastructure that enhances the experience of people in Hatfield. We call this the mushroom, a multifunctional structure that utilizes roof farming, vertical farming, composting, aquaponics, and rainwater harvesting.
The current Burnett Street becomes a funkadelic frenzy. Walking down the pedestrian street, you experience the local artist creating street furniture. You hear the indigenous birds above you and the trickling water in aquaponic ponds, filtering stormwater and watering the surrounding plants. The parking lot at Hatfield Plaza becomes the cultural heart of Hatfield. You hear the local artists filling the space with music and stories, a garden to walk in, an immensity to dream in. What more could one ask for? An uncomfortable eating place becomes an oasis of food. So many things to taste and see, and it's food waste free. An unused space becomes a vibrant farmer's market. You hear two farmers arguing. No, mine's bigger than yours. as you head to the market with your prized pumpkin under your arm. You win the competition and walk away with your bag of seeds. The seeds are already being planted in Hatfield.